So with that, I want to introduce our main speaker, Laura Schifter, who will talk about some of those strategies. Laura is a senior fellow leading the K through 12 initiative with the Aspen Institute's Energy and Environment program. She's also a fellow with the Century Foundation and a lecturer at Harvard School of Education. Please join me in welcoming Laura.
Thank you so much, Secretary, and thank you so much for having me here today. It's an honor to be able to join you all for this conference and to be able to share with you some information, a bit to expand on some of what John already spoke about earlier today, and just talk to you all a little bit more about the issues around addressing climate change and helping support our youth in addressing climate change. So I'm so excited to learn more about the great work that you all are doing and to have the opportunity to be here with you all today. So I'd love the chance to have this session be a little bit more interactive, and we're going to be using a tool called Poll Everywhere for those folks that are familiar with it. If you just go to pollev.com/LA Schifter, and I'll throw that in the chat. This will take you to an active website where you should be able to just put a dot down to address how are you feeling today. You know, we're all coming off of a tremendous experience that we all have had in our communities, and I feel like it's important frequently to take a step back and just do a quick check-in with folks and see how they're doing in the midst of all of this. This will also then ground you all. It will be the link that we will use for the next few slides, where we'll be doing some more Poll EV activities as well. So it seems like several of you, thank you for updating that link. It looks like I did not type it in correctly, so thank you all for putting that in there. It looks like several of you all have been able to access this, and it looks like a lot of people are in a good space today, which is also great to see. And I am going to shift on. So as you all are here, I'd love to just take a minute and have you all think about climate change for a second. So where does addressing climate change fall in terms of the issues that you care about? And so just thinking personally, this is just some setting around the folks that we have in the room and where climate change is for everyone. So I'll just take a minute and let you all kind of reflect on this and think about where climate change is in your perspectives. So it seems like, you know, several people have it among their top priorities. Yes, I guess you all don't have food as a part of this conference, but you did just come out of lunch. So maybe it was you just came for that lunch break. So it seems like several of you have it among your top priorities. All right. Now, what we're here to talk about today is empowering a climate-ready generation. And what you all have outlined as these issues is the current generation of students understands that climate change will have a profound impact on their daily lives because climate change is an all-encompassing issue. Mitigating it is a job for everyone, not just scientists. And we really are at this moment where we need to think about mobilizing everyone to be part of solutions. And this really needs to shift from perspectives of this is an environmental issue to this is an everybody issue. And so this is a critical moment, and I'm really encouraged by the fact that you all are having this conversation. And as you all are thinking about it, one of the things that I wanted to set is this poll that came out 2 years ago from the Washington Post. And it was a poll assessing teenagers' perspectives on climate change. And just a couple of points that I wanted to point out is that in this poll, they identified that 57% of teens report that climate change makes them feel afraid. 54% of teens say that also climate change makes them feel motivated. And 54% of teens also say they have learned little or nothing about how to reduce the effects of climate change in school. And I think what these data really point to is a real opportunity to build on the work that is already occurring, and several of you are already engaged in out there in terms of teaching climate solutions, and really harness the fact that a lot of teens out there are motivated and care about these issues. So I'd love for you all to take a minute, if you're thinking about this now, 10 years down the road, if education is empowering a climate-ready generation that you all have outlined today, what would that look like to you? How would things be different than what they are right now? How would things be, similar, building on what you already do? What does this mean in terms of what students are learning in school? What do graduates look like? And what you can do is you can type that in, and you can also then, if there's somebody else has written something that you agree with, you can hit that to vote it up. So ultimately, yep, somebody there figured it out. It will give votes to things and vote it up. And I'll just take a minute and hear what some of your thoughts are on this. So justice would be centered in all climate change education. Environmental literacy is a standard part of the curriculum. Youth voice in leadership and decision-making. Justice is really getting a lot of votes here. Students are empowered. Real world, hands-on, hyper-local context. A more diverse group of people will be engaged in local policy making around climate change. So as you all are thinking about this, what I'm hoping this is doing is setting some sort of expectation of what you'd like to see the education system look like and how you'd like to see it different than what it is right now. Because ultimately, for us to get to this climate-ready generation, we need to really be rethinking and coming together around what we think that education system can look like 10 years down the road. Now, an important thing for us to consider in order to get there is to also think about what the barriers are. So right now, we are not at that climate-ready generation. So what are the barriers you see to achieving that education system? Okay, so bureaucracy and politics, political climate, insufficient funding, lack of teacher professional development. All right, and as you all, this will stay open for a minute because I want to just let you all kind of generate some of these barriers. And I hope if you all will indulge me for a second, I just want to talk to you. That poll everywhere will stay up, and I encourage you all to draft some of those barriers. I just want to talk a little bit about how I came to this work. So just so you all know, this is a little bit about me. This is a picture when I was a young child. And just to tell you a little bit about my background, I was diagnosed with dyslexia when I was 7 years old. And actually, my background has not been in environmental education. My background has not been in issues around climate change. My background has been in special education and disability policy. And from the time I was, 7 years old, I experienced very much firsthand the impact that teachers had on both my success in the classroom and when I was able to do well as a lot of the challenges that I experienced. And my whole career and perspective was really dedicated towards increasing access and opportunities for other children with dyslexia. But one thing that happened that kind of changed that perspective, I'm not sure if other of you all have experienced this out there, but I've found that there have been very few, but some very powerful days in my life. And these days have occurred. And from that day forward, it's changed my entire life trajectory. And I have had 3 days in my life where I've experienced this. One was the birth of my first daughter. This is my first daughter here, Ellie. Another day shortly thereafter was actually when we lost my brother-in-law unexpectedly, and experiencing the weight and tragedy that comes with grief that I'm sure that many of you have experienced out there as well. And then the last day that really changed the trajectory of my life was October 8th, 2013 is not right there. It's supposed to be 2018. Sorry about that. When the UN climate report came out on 1.5 degrees warming, and I started to read the headlines that day. And it said, the world has just over a decade to get climate change under control. Planet has only until 2030 to stem the catastrophic climate change, experts warn. Major climate report describes strong risk of crisis as early as 2040. And this onslaught of news really hit me in the face. And, it took me from climate change was an issue I cared about, but not at the top, and it accelerated it right to the top. Part of the reason why it accelerated it to the top, this is again, my daughter. One of the things I started when she was born was, on Instagram, you can post pictures with hashtags. I had started this hashtag Ellie2056, which would be the year that she would run for president. So this was her campaign hashtag. And one of the things that I was thinking about was what would the world look like that Ellie would inherit in her first year as president? And all I could think about, reading these reports, was thinking about my instincts as a mother and my experiences with grief, with realizing that if we don't do something on climate change, the world that she inherits is going to be very different from the world that we're living in today. And it made me repurpose myself to say, climate change is this issue that any other issue that I care about will be made worse if we don't get climate change under control. And I just knew that I had to repurpose my focus in my career to do what I could to help address issues of climate change. That's what brought me on a journey over the next kind of 2 years, where I was able to help talk to a lot of wonderful people out there. Frank from NOAA, I don't know if he's on here, and talking with Secretary King as well, and started building out this concept of, leveraging some of the experiences that I've had working in education policy, and building relationships within the education community, and learning more about the tremendous work that's going on out there already, to bring together folks and build on that work to launch this commission. Hi, Frank. And what we are really out there doing with this work, as I know Secretary King really outlined nicely this morning, is really trying to work towards a future where our 98,000 public schools can be models for sustainability, and the over 50 million children and youth in these schools are prepared to advance a more sustainable, resilient, and equitable society. As Secretary King mentioned this morning, our focus is really thinking about what schools can do to transition to more sustainable operations, how they can build resilience in preparation for climate change, how they can help support teaching and learning to equip children and youth for a more sustainable world, and really thinking about all of this through the lens of equity and how we use this moment of transition to really center and focus on this. So it's true, there are a lot of barriers in the system that exist today, but I also think that this is a real opportunity where we can find a lot of hope in this moment. And part of the reason why I think there's opportunity for hope is looking at some of the work that's going on out there. I think looking at the work that you all are doing and convening this conversation today is case in point of that. I also think, looking at some of the data out there, this is from the Yale Climate Change Communication, looking at people's opinions on climate change just even over the past 5 years, and how the number of people that are alarmed about climate change has increased 15 points in this percentage points in this time period. So thinking about this, more people are getting more concerned about climate change, which is going to increase motivation to do something about it. So I think that that is promising. I think that there are promising things going on at the federal level as well. I think there's real leadership out there. Right now, this is a video clip, which I don't think we'll have time to play now, but I can send the link and you all can watch it later. This is a clip of Administrator Regan talking about the importance of these issues and being able to articulate and express these issues and their importance from the federal level, I think is a really powerful moment and opportunity. The American Jobs Plan does include $100 billion in school infrastructure that includes efforts to reduce their greenhouse gases. There's provisions within the American Jobs Plan as well about transitioning the electric school bus fleet. I think, again, as Secretary King mentioned, it's going to be critical to see it get over the finish line and include these provisions ahead. But I think that the fact that they're there is hopeful. There we go. I think that state action in this space is really hopeful. You know, New Jersey passing climate change standards. Local action has been occurring too, with school districts across the country transitioning to 100% clean energy resolutions. And school districts across the country committing to transitioning their school bus fleet as well. But one of the most important things that I think brings a lot of hope in what you all are going to be talking about this afternoon is really the youth that are out there that are leading us today. And we've had the opportunity through this commission to hear from youth across the country about the work that they are doing, to have our youth contribute guest blogs to talk about how this issue is important to them in a whole variety of different settings. And, you know, as it was said in this video, the youth are the future, but the youth are leading us today. And so we need to do what we can to find these intergenerational partnerships and provide the support that's really needed to ensure that we're engaging students in these conversations and providing them with the skills that they need as well. So I'd just like to close for a minute to ask you all to reflect on whether it be in this moment or whether it be going forward into your conversations this afternoon. What, if anything, do you think you can do to help remove some of these barriers and help empower a climate-ready generation? Explicit commitment at all levels. Connect EL and climate change so we're having one conversation. Center climate ed and equity and ed programming. Advocate. And so as you all are thinking about this, and I hope you will continue to think about these going ahead, I did have a closing video. Shannon, I don't know how we're doing about timing, about whether we should go for it now, or do you want to, are we good to share now? Go ahead.
We can make up the time, yeah.
Okay, great. So as you all are thinking about that, I just want to share this video that the commission put together just to reiterate some of the importance of this work. Sorry. So I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with you all today. And thank you for all the work that you are doing to help advance this work across the region and the country. And, you know, thank you so much. And I hope it's a good conversation this afternoon.